What's the official stance on foot fetishes of this podcast?
You do you.
Yeah. If you like
long as
dogs,
it's consensual.
yeah, like if dogs
Hell
are your
yeah.
thing. Like I mean, like feet dogs,
Hell
not.
I was like, that's a different thing, dude.
Cut.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Blockbuster, where three dudes talk about movies that we like and sometimes don't like. I am the host with the most. My name is Ben. Welcome.
Hello, I am also a host. This is Mitch.
And I am your third host, Lucas.
Happy Pride Month, everybody. Hope you're all having fun and staying safe. But join protests. Anyway, today we begin a new epoch. This episode's epoch, or this season's epoch. What is it? A fucking season?
I don't know.
This month's epoch.
This epoch's epoch.
Yeah, was movies that the requesters haven't seen. And since it's my week, I chose Some Like It Hot by Billy Wilder. It's been on my to-watch list for a really, really long time. I'm a big fan of Billy Wilder, so I was really excited about this movie. Yeah, so just to give a brief summary of it. Some Like It Hot, two jizz musicians. Two jazz musicians, Jerry and Joe, adopt female personas in order to travel with a band of female musicians so they can escape Chicago after being pursued by a mobster for witnessing a murder they shouldn't have. And it all takes place in the roaring 20s.
And in Florida.
See?
Oh, yeah. Part of it's in Chicago, part of it's in Florida. But we'll get there.
And it features the transatlantic accent.
Is that what that was? Is it the one I'm thinking of? Okay,
Yeah.
I have a lot to say
And
about that.
Italian mobster accent too, I suppose.
Oh.
Yeah, lots of that.
Mozzarella.
Yeah, copper. You'll never take me alive. I do want to give just a couple of brief notes. Billy Wilder, if you don't know who he was a director from the golden age of cinema. He made a lot of classics. He made Sunset Boulevard, 7-Year Itch, The Apartment. As a director, his style was really rigid. He favored control and rehearsal over flair and improv. Sort of in a way, kind of like like an old school Christopher Nolan, where like the director's his philosophy, I assume, if you asked him, you can't anymore, he's dead. But I assume his philosophy would sort of fall along the lines of the director is there as like a vehicle for the script. The script is the main focus of everything. It's the core of the movie with that. The movie was released in 1959, and it pissed a lot of people off, like Reverend Thomas Little from the National League of Decency. I found a letter that he wrote the producer, Reverend Thomas Little, and I think it's kind of funny, and I'd like to read it real quick. You guys want to hear it?
It's an unhinged review from 1959.
Oh my god, yeah. It is. It actually, I fucking should have left that for the end.
You
Should
can
I
save
save
it.
it, yeah.
You can save it
All
if
right,
you want.
yeah. Okay, we'll save this for the. That's a fucking brilliant idea. But just so you know, this movie was banned in Kansas because there's some kissing scenes.
It went against the Hays Code.
Yeah, it for the time it was boundary pushing. If you watch it nowadays, you'll be like, "What?" It doesn't. It seems very old school. Lots of sexism.
Yeah.
But it for the time it pushed a lot of boundaries. And for what it's worth, Billy Wilder was a pretty outspoken leftist. So yeah, what subtitles we got going on, boys?
What are subtitles, Ben?
What?
No, to introduce it to the viewer, that's all.
Oh, yeah. the viewer. So before we get started, we like to for every movie we do, we like to come up with a brief little marquee, movie : blank, just to like sell the movie and see what we can come up with. Mine this week it's not very fucking good. I just made it on the spot. I've had a busy week. Some like it hot. Marilyn Monroe likes yachts.
Nice.
I like that.
Some Like It Hot by J.K. Rowling.
Oh my gosh. Some like it hot. In the key of she.
Oh.
Oh, ooh, okay. That's a clever one. I like that. Yeah, if you haven't guessed already, there's, two men cross-dress as women in this movie. It's 1959, so it's very interesting to look back on. I'm actually excited to hear your guys' thoughts on it because I feel I don't know. I read a lot of different. I tried to get other people's opinions on this because I'm cis, and I liked it. I liked this movie. I thought it was pretty. It's fucking hilarious. I think so, but it's also the main issues I have with it are the third act kind of wastes some time, and it's very sexist.
Yeah.
Those are my two
Like-
main criticisms of it.
Marilyn Monroe's character, Sugar, is like, I don't know, does not have any intelligence to like understand the like being duped, is like only after marrying a rich husband. And like, you know, I feel like if this movie was made nowadays, her character would have a lot more dimension to it. I liked the movie. I think that it was like, one, thank you, Ben, for recommending this because it was fun to check out some like historical stuff. Like, I'm not somebody that usually watches older movies, and I want to and I should. And this was something that kept me captive, I guess, in a fun way, in a good way.
Ooh, in a kinky way.
It is definitely dated. You know, it was made in 1959, so yes, there's a lot of sexism. There are some themes with like the cross-dressing that I think that we look at nowadays. Mitch was alluding to with his marquee could be considered transphobic or skipping over the trans experience within this story, but also I think within context of its time, like it was pretty groundbreaking. It was going against the Hays Codes, which, for those of you who don't know, were huge morality laws about what could be shown to Americans through media. So there could be no such thing as passionate kissing, only little pecks, which this movie definitely does not listen to. And, of course, men cross-dressing was not okay. Depictions of homosexuality, depictions of any sort of queer experience were not allowed. And, of course, it goes into more things within race, things within, like, drug usage, and just, like, so it kind of pushed against that, which is really cool. And I think a fun fact that I want to share with y'all that I really enjoyed was that Billy Wilder, to get the two men who cross-dress in this movie, Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. To understand how to perform in drag, he actually hired a drag queen consultant, a person named Vanderclyde Broadway, born in 1899. Their drag performance name was Barbette. They were a huge icon and drag queen who performed. They were born in Texas, but they performed all the way in the Moulin Rouge back during its heyday, which is like so cool. And they brought him on to show them how to do drag. For as much as I would like to see drag done in a queer space, or I think that for its time, it was pretty spectacular and kind of surprised me, honestly.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, Pride Discourse. All right, Mitch. You seem to have thoughts.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, so I had fun with the film. Did I like it? I thought it was okay. I think most of my criticisms come from a filmmaking perspective, not so much any sort of higher falutin analysis of the film necessarily. I think I would have loved the movie to be like a tight 90-minute comedy rather than a 2-hour comedy. I think my enjoyment of it would have been a lot higher, but I had a fun time with it. I think some of the sort of schlockiness of this era of comedy isn't always my bag. Like it gets a little tiresome, especially with the film at 2 hours by the end, just for me. But I had a good time. It's not something I want to return to, but not a bad watch.
Yeah. From a filmmaking perspective, in my opinion, Billy Wilder is one of the greatest writers ever. It's hard to argue that the dude is such a master of the craft. It's hard to argue against it. Is the dude is such a master of the craft? But I will say that Sunset Boulevard and The Apartment are orders of magnitude better written than this movie. This movie is still really well written, really well written. But you're right, or I agree with you that I think 2 hours is too long for it, because I think well, we'll get into it, but I think the scene on the yacht drags on too long, and I think that's because it was, pushing boundaries and risque and provocative. Jesus fucking Christ. It's provocative. And you milk that shit. When you get footage of that shit, you milk that shit. Anyway, are y'all ready to get into it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Okay.
FYI, I did share with y'all a picture of Barbette. For anyone listening, I highly recommend looking them up because they have a wild story that could be its own podcast, honestly.
We open with 4 mugs. That's not a slur, is it? To call guys mugs, that's not a slur. 4 mugs.
I don't know, brother.
Please, somebody answer my fucking question.
I don't think so. All I can think of as a mug is like a face.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, in old timey days, you call dudes mugs, right? You mug.
I don't know, man.
All right, fuck.
I've never heard that, but
We start with 4 mugs. Mobsters. Well, they're wearing funeral clothes, They're wearing tuxedos, the shit you would wear to a funeral. And they're driving with a coffin when a police car starts to tail them. They exchange some looks silently before agreeing to step on the fucking gas and pull a bunch of guns out of every corner of the vehicle in order to start shooting at the fuzz, which they do. We find out as several bullets pierce the coffin and it starts leaking whiskey that these guys are bootleggers. It's 1920s Chicago, by the way. That was revealed at the very beginning of the movie. Nobody gets shot. Everybody's okay, except the whiskey, some of the whiskey. They make it away and bring the booze coffin to a funeral parlor. Outside, a detective who's tracked them gets some information from a guy named fucking Toothpick Charlie.
yeah, Toothpick Charlie.
His name's fucking Toothpick Charlie. Can you guess why this individual's name is fucking Toothpick Charlie? I bet you can't.
Ben, is it because he always has a toothpick in his mouth?
That's right. That's right. How the fuck did you know that? Yeah, Toothpick Charlie tells them that there's a speakeasy. Tells the detective there's a speakeasy inside, but he can't stick around, because if he sticks around, it's goodbye, Toothpick Charlie. So we're gonna have to skip over so many golden jokes like that. Otherwise, we'll be here forever.
Yeah.
That's most of what the dialogue is. Almost all the dialogue is just packed full of hilarious shit.
Also, for
Anyway.
1959, that was a really fun car chase scene.
Yeah,
like
for
that was
sure.
a
Yeah.
well executed car chase scene. That was like, oh, okay, come on, production.
Yeah. That slide that the police do with their vehicle. I was like, damn, I'm surprised they didn't tip the fuck over.
I know, I didn't know cars that old moved that fast.
Anyway, the detective goes inside and finds the speakeasy and sits down at a table, orders a coffee that's actually whiskey, drinks it, and waits for the mobsters who show up, the mobsters that they were chasing. While they're there, we're introduced to our main characters, Jerry and Joe, who are two musicians at the Speakeasy. One, Jerry, plays the bull fiddle, which I had to Google to figure out what that was. That's a cello. It's a bass, double bass. and Joe plays the alto saxophone. Did I get that right? Joe plays the. Help me out, guys! For fuck's sake,
I'm listening. Yeah, Joe, played by Joe, played by Tony Curtis, plays the saxophone, and Jerry, played by Jack Lemmon, plays the upright bass or the cello.
Which, by the way, most of this movie they're going to be in like drag. And I did not remember or distinguish which one was which in terms of their male names, so I will be referring to them by their female names.
Yeah. So Jack Lemmon of 12 Angry Men fame, and he's a very famous actor. I don't know anything Tony Curtis has done. But apparently he's been in some pretty progressive movies for the time.
He's also the father of Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh, fuck, really?
Uh-huh.
Wait, really?
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow. I didn't
Hollywood
know that.
royalty, final girl royalty.
Anyway, while they're playing their music at this very lively speakeasy, Jerry and Joe talk about their financial troubles, which are numerous, as they argue over whether or not they should put all their money they're about to make for the night on a dog at the racetrack.
You know,
which is always a good idea.
Yeah, you know they're into some bad, in a bad way. When you're at the dog track, that's bad. No character ever has been like going to the dog track because they're in a good place financially.
While they're discussing this, Jerry notices the detective at the table using the pin on his police badge to cut his cigar.
That was so dumb. Like, why would he do that? Other people would have seen that. I get it. It's driving
for the viewer.
The plot. Yeah, it's for the viewer, and I think it's indicative of this time of cinema where acting had a lot of influences from theatrical acting, where you play it big, you do it large instead of focusing on realism. It's definitely not 100% theatrical and over the top, but there's still definitely moments like that feel dated.
It sets the tone for the movie, like the standard of believability we're going for, which to some degree forgives the character of Sugar. These aren't necessarily like capable people. Everybody in this movie is a scoundrel. And that's kind of par for the course for the Billy Wilder movies that don't take themselves as seriously. And the detective's not exactly a super smart guy. He's pretty good at his job, but he's aloof. He's clearly an aloof guy. So the two musicians, they know where this is going, so they start packing up their shit toot sweet. I wrote a lot of my notes in old-timey speak because it's an old-timey movie. And then I kind of dropped that meme halfway through. So just bear with me.
I appreciate it, though.
Sure as the day you were born, the police bust in and raid the place. They escape out the fire escape, Joe and Jerry do, with some very satisfying blocking.
And a lot of physical comedy, too. We didn't even introduce our antagonists, first off.
Well, yeah, the mugs. The mugs walk in with a man named Spats Columbo. Yeah. Clearly the leader of the gang, and you could tell who Spats Columbo is because Spats Columbo wears spats.
Yeah.
I didn't know spats was an outfit or an article of clothing.
It's the things over his shoes. Yeah. They're like,
oh. Yeah. That's fair. Also,
all
of the mugs, as Ben says, I get it. They're trying to not have their fingers dirty, so none of them are drinking alcohol, but they're all drinking milk like psychopaths.
Yeah, I thought milk is commonly like a bad guy thing. It's like an evil drink. Fucking Clockwork Orange. Who else? Who else drinks milk? That's bad.
In Westworld, there's some milk happening. There's a scene with some milk in Westworld.
The boys. The boys.
Everyone who drinks milk is bad.
We've had this discussion before.
Yeah.
I'm a milk defender. Drink whatever the fuck you want. These two purists here think that if your lived experience is enjoying a glass of milk before bed, that's not valid. I'd like to make that clear.
Yes, I stand by those statements. We should not be drinking milk past infancy. And what? Fight me.
You should drink milk every day for your bones.
You can get calcium in so many places. But you know, if you're going to have cereal, that is acceptable. If you're using it in baking, that is acceptable. It's just a straight glass of milk is fucking psychotic.
My dear friends, if you would like to hear our conversation on milk, please turn to episode 2 on discussion of First Cow. If you would like more information on our thoughts on milk. About this movie, though, as I was saying, there's a lot of physical comedy. Like one guy clearly wasted off his ass, like spills his coffee, quote unquote, on Spatz's spats. And he is seen like throughout the sort of raid scene, kind of just drunkenly being like, wait, whoa, like where I want more drink though.
He's like, I need another cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Very similarly to Sorry to Bother You, like Mitch said in that episode, the thing you're going to miss from this podcast episode of us talking about this is how funny this movie is. It's very funny, and we won't be able to go over all the jokes. And if we did, we'd just be reiterating them. It's an hilarious movie. Even for the time, it holds up today. It's just witty and quick and spirited. After they climb down from the fire exit, Jerry laments their finances, and Joe wonders how much the bookie will give them for their overcoats that they're wearing. Jerry protests, all in vain, as we dissolve fade to a shot of both men walking through a blizzard with their instruments and exactly no overcoats. Things are not going well. As they search for another job by walking into a building that has jobs, I guess, and going door to door and opening up and asking for a job where they could play music, because that's what they do. We learn that Joe's a fucking gambling addict and still wants to put money on a dog. They get rejected by basically every receptionist that they talk to, but they open a door for a specific receptionist who gets mad at the sight of Joe. Because Joe stood her up on a date, she's going to get revenge on him by telling him that there's totally a job opening for them and they should totally talk to her boss. Turns out, as they talk to the boss, there is a job, but it's specifically for 2 women, not men, like these 2 guys are. These 2 guys are men, and the job's for 2 women.
And the way the boss tells them, he's like, well, you got the wrong color hair. You're not blonde. You're not, like, he like goes through the list of things. He's like, well, yeah, you're not the right sex or what. I don't forget how he wraps it up, but they like make excuses why they can do the job.
He says, I need you to be 25. And they say, we could pass for that. He says, I need you to be blonde. He's like, we could dye our hair. He says, I need you to be women. And Jerry's like, well, we can. And Joe stops him and says, no, we can't.
Yeah, this movie is filled with, like, the way that the script is written is a lot of, like, quips, a lot of one-liners. It's definitely not how people talk, but it's really funny.
Also, Jack Lemmon's performance is so good. God, he was such a good actor. It's kind of important to note that Jerry's into the idea. Jerry's down to dress like a woman and do this. Joe is not. They trick Nellie, the receptionist who Joe stood up and just played a prank on them, into giving them her car for the night. They go to the garage to pick it up, and there's a group of gangsters playing cards.
With none other than Toothpick.
Yeah, Toothpick Charlie. Hey, Toothpick. So I'm just going to run through my notes in order because it'll be important for context. The mugs from the beginning show up with guns and get everybody up against the wall, except Joe and Jerry, who hide behind a car, accusing them of setting them up and getting a raid called in, which is a great little moment of setup and payoff because at the beginning, Toothpick Charlie said, I can't be seen because that'll be goodbye for Toothpick Charlie. And in this scene, Spats gets him up against the wall and then tells his goons, goodbye, Charlie. And they light him up with Tommy guns. just like the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. It's just one of many, many setups and payoffs in the script. Billy Wilder is a fucking legend at those. And Joe and Jerry watch the whole ordeal from a hiding place behind the car. Now, if you'll remember, the epoch or the theme for this epoch that we chose to go with was that the recommender couldn't have seen the movie. I have not seen this movie before. And so I was writing my notes in order, and I'd only watched the movie once. So a lot of these setups I didn't know were setups because Billy Wilder's really, really good at them. And so I wrote, it's really hard to write a synopsis for this on my first viewing because Billy Wilder sets up so many things that are referenced later on. For example, I didn't mention that the valet asked if they wanted their car filled up with gas and if they wanted to put it on Nellie's tab, to which Joe says, yeah, why not? Go ahead and fill it up. It's played like a like a funny moment, like, fuck, and we got her ass, hey, raccoon. But right there, right during the scene when Jerry and Joe are hiding behind the car and all those guys got fucking murked, the gas tank overflows, the hose pops out of the car, and all the gangsters turn around to see where Joe and Jerry were hiding. This is why Billy Wilder is a fucking legend. He was ruinously efficient. He used so many elements of his script to serve the script that in a way that like almost nobody else does. It's a difficult thing to do too because you have to hide it right under the audience's nose. And maybe it's just the virtue of the fact that there's the sheer volume of setups that Billy Wilder uses, but the dude was a fucking master. Anyway, Spatz gives the order to kill Joe and Jerry, but Charlie, who still has some life in him, tries to grab a phone, knocks it off the counter, and while the mugs are distracted lighting him up, Joe and Jerry hit the bricks.
Yes, they do. They run, for those not familiar with the old-timey speak.
They make it to a telephone, and Joe calls Nellie's boss, putting on his best femme voice and pretending to be a female musician in a bid to get out of town. Joe's now in on the plan because they're going to disguise themselves and use the pretense of playing in this band as women to get the fuck out of town and not get murdered by Spatz. That's the plan. We cut to a shot of them walking in heels. They are not good at walking in heels on their way to a train. Jerry twists his ankle and asks, how do they walk in these things? Joe replies, it must be the way the weight is distributed.
Which is dumb.
It is dumb, but I think the movie also agrees that it's dumb, which is kind of cool. I'm just going to say it. Joe does not look half bad. He doesn't look half bad. I don't know if it's kosher for a cis guy to weigh in on how well someone passes, but for Tony Curtis playing Joe in this movie, he's almost there.
That's funny. I was thinking the opposite.
Really?
Yeah, Daphne's where it's at.
Oh, no.
But also Daphne was open to the idea initially. I feel like Daphne plays into it more throughout the movie, while like Josephine, Joe, I don't know, is like, it is, a cover, it's a disguise, but like Daphne's like, okay, I gotta be one of the girls, then like, let's gab with the girls.
That's possibly a consequence of the acting. I read this somewhere. I think it was in an IMDb's trivia section that Tony Curtis was more uncomfortable in being in drag, and so his performance was a little more reserved. Whereas Jack Lemmon was all about it. Just
having a good old time.
That's interesting. I think Jerry kind of looks like the Joker at times, and it freaks me out.
He also laughs, like his laugh. He's got a very
that's
it's freaky. It freaks me out.
It's over the top, but at the same time, like, she's feeling her oats. She's going into it.
Feeling her oats.
It's a Drag Race reference.
Oh, okay. I wish I was cultured so I could understand that. Anyway, they're trying to get comfortable being women, and while they're waiting in line, you get that horn from the 1950s to indicate that a sex icon has appeared on screen.
Love.
Yeah, it's iconic.
I want that to
fucking
play when I
iconic.
walk into a room.
I want that to play at my wedding when I'm walking down the
Yeah.
Just rocking my hips back and forth. Marilyn Monroe serving. I used the phrase serving. I don't know if I used it correctly. Serving flapper as fuck. Struts on by the boys.
Which I have to talk about the scene real quick.
Hell yeah, let's hear it.
Something that we have to note is that, especially with like this administration, specific ideologies in America that have issues with drag do not actually have the issue with drag as an art form. They have issues with queer people doing drag. When it comes to men doing drag that are straight or hetero, like this or Mrs. Doubtfire, that's not an issue within these bands. When it is women doing high femme drag like Marilyn Monroe is doing here, they have no issue with that. This drag is like a performance of gender, a heightened version of it. And these supermodels that you see that have essentially based themselves off of Marilyn Monroe, it is like the performance of femininity. And so not only are, like some women better at walking in heels than men, but like you see Marilyn Monroe and she's like every step she's taking, her body is shifting in the perfect way to be seductive. That is drag. That is performance. And it was a great contrast.
I think it's interesting that you bring up that contrast because that's the first thing that I keyed in on. It's played. So this scene's played with like this classical male gaze, right? The camera is hyper focused on Marilyn Monroe's ass, which is in a very tight fitting dress, and she is walking in heels and rocking back and forth. And the camera cuts back to the two dudes, and they're staring at her ass like, God,
Auga, auga.
Yeah.
This is very like,
Very that.
yeah.
So one thing that I picked up on, beyond like the sexist implications of this, because it's objectifying clearly,
Yeah.
but there is, I thought something else there which is like Lucas said, they're watching her performance of femininity, and they're watching it in kind of like a scientific way, like they're taking notes so that they can be better at it, you know? I found an article on duckeyes.com called Some Like It Hot, a lighthearted exploration of non-heteronormative sexuality. The author is not referenced in there, so I can't cite the author directly, but they write, the concept of sexual fluidity and gender expression are exemplified best by the character of Jerry, someone who remarks upon seeing Sugar for the first time, quote, "Look how she moves, just like Jell-O on springs." In this sequence, the camera and Jerry take on two differing perspectives. The camera adopts the heterosexual male gaze, a medium close-up shot of Sugar's lower half as she walks to the train. When the camera cuts back to the men, although the camera had sexual implications, Jerry's comments are scientific and inquisitive, implying little or no sexual interest. Now, I don't necessarily agree with what they said there. I think there is sexual interest, or you think that there's sexual interest here, but I think as the character of Jerry gets developed throughout the movie, you could make an argument that there isn't. You could make this argument that this person's making, that it is scientific, that Jerry is not necessarily attracted to Sugar, but he wants to be her. You know what I mean?
I think this is one of the things where I think if Some Like It Hot was made today would be a different storyline. Because there's definitely this aspect of Daphne or Jerry like leaning into the drag, leaning into exploring their feminine side and enjoying it and looking at Marilyn Monroe not objectively but with like shock and awe, like how do I do that? Now this movie later on, like there are times where he's like, I wanna hook up with her, I'll do whatever I can, blah blah. But I think there were some like undertones. I don't know if they were like intentional. I think they were, but of like, that he wanted to be her. And fun little fact, Some Like It Hot is now a Broadway show. It started in 2022, and what they rewrote is Daphne or Jerry's character to actually explore gender and at the end become a woman, and that this experience actually shows Jerry who she is.
Yeah, I think you could definitely make the argument that that plot line is in this movie if you interpret it that way. I don't think it's explicit. Like, I don't think you could resolve just from viewing this movie whether or not the artists believe that a transgender experience is valid. I think you could definitely resolve that they think that it's worth questioning gender roles, like how a man and a woman ought to act. But whether or not they think, like, you know, a person could be born assigned one gender at birth when they're actually a different gender, whether or not they believe that, it's up for debate. And I think, I mean, I've never seen this Broadway musical that you're talking about. I'd love to see it. That sounds like a lot of fucking fun.
Yeah.
But it seems like they're refining that idea and addressing that idea.
Jerry's character, they were going to be Joe and Jerry. They were going to be Josephine and Geraldine as play on their male names. But in the heat of the moment, when Jerry's asked like what his name is, he says Daphne out of the blue. This is like, there's no discussion of it. It is him finding this in himself. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Like, she's finding her true self.
That's the next scene, and there's the very next scene is they're getting on the train. It transpires exactly like Lucas just said, and when I noticed that, I picked up on that being like, oh, that like Daphne's owning it, like she might actually be a woman, and I found another article on a website called Medium.com written by a trans novelist, who also a theater producer, also an educator, who uses the handle Quintessence of Dust, and the essay is called A Trans Perspective on Some Like It Hot. And I'll reference it later because I think their opinions on it are really interesting. But they say, Some Like It Hot causes little twinges in trans people today. I'll admit to some twinginess for portraying the stereotypical man in a dress comedy meme, but I'll argue that it does something else. It is not too difficult to make the case that Jack Lemmon's Jerry is actually transgender, and over the course of the film goes on a journey of self-discovery. For instance, when choosing female names, Joe goes with Josephine and assumes Jerry will go with Geraldine, which is not the case, and he chooses Daphne instead. I think there is something there. They meet the band, Jerry and Joe, going by Daphne and Josephine. Meet the band. They're all very kind and welcoming. And then they go to the bathroom together to find Marilyn Monroe's character hitting a flask like Lance Stroll hits other drivers.
Just Lance Stroll stray in our movies podcast? Sure, why not?
Yeah, rack 'em. I don't know what that means. I don't know. Oh, Lance Stroll? He's an F1 driver. He sucks ass.
Damn, Lance, if you listen to this podcast, I'm sorry, bro. It's uncalled for. It's fucked up. But you probably should do better, though, like, to be honest.
So yeah, she's hitting a flask that she's got stored in her pantyhose leg. We learn her name is Sugar Cane. I know.
Kowalski? What was it? Kowalczyk.
What the fuck?
That's her last name. Sugar Cane.
But she chose a good stage name.
Sick.
Oh.
Yeah,
we're learning together.
The lighting in this, like, she just always looks so pretty in this movie. It's like
her hair glows.
Yeah, it absolute like radiance, and it's like somehow you can see the sparkle, and even though it's black and white, I can like see her eyes. Like I can see the color in them somehow through the black and white film. I don't know. You can see why she was so enrapturing to an entire generation of people. You know, I think us, obviously, we're not old enough to have any sort of connection outside of pop culture. So it's interesting to see her in her element and these things that, you know, made her an icon.
Like her breathy voice, the
yeah. So sexy.
High femme drag.
Ah, so sexy. I honestly, I think what might get lost in that is, especially to probably a 1950s male audience, is she's actually a really good actress.
That yeah,
Like,
watching
really good.
watching this, I was like, ugh, I felt so bad. Just her whole story of her life and how it ends so tragically. But just like this role is so sad because Sugarcane is just getting duped left and right, and they don't write her to have a lot of intelligence, unfortunately. And it's like, how amazing would Marilyn Monroe be in a movie like was written by women or gave her a three-dimensional role that really showed her her range? Because there are some scenes in this movie where she's portraying sadness and like she can go into it. She has some range.
Yeah. To be perfectly honest, like I do understand where you're coming from, Lucas, but I think her character has a little more depth than you might be letting on, in my opinion. I don't think your interpretation is necessarily wrong. I just think that I don't know. I think to have my opinion, you have to do a little bit of mental gymnastics, maybe. But if you're willing to interpret the movie in such a way, like, okay, look, Sugarcane's character is primarily motivated by status and money, and she primarily sees men as a method of getting status and money. Not her. I mean, she has a job, right? She's in a band that's pretty successful, and yet she still assumes that her success is going to be found in a rich dude. But also, I don't know. The movie. First of all, it's the 1950s. But so like the first response to that is, okay, that's just like how the people at the time see women, right? But they never really criticize her, and also the men do the same thing. So I don't know. I think it might. I think in a way it's sort of calling into question gender roles in a sexist way. Well, I mean, you could make the argument that it's addressing the fact that women are primarily motivated by, or the belief that women are motivated by status and money is incorrect and sort of like socially destructive. But by the end, she sheds that all and goes out with a guy that she actually likes.
I mean, yeah, I'm not trying to sell it as like she was like brain dead in this movie, that this character had no intellect at all. But I think, I don't know.
I wish they wouldn't have her drool in so many scenes, where it was just like really falling off her chin.
What?
I think they could have given her more than that. I'm sorry.
Oh my god. Okay, all right. So, digression over. We learned pretty quick that Sugarcane is an alcoholic, who likes to drink, as alcoholics tend to do. When she leaves, Jerry says, "How about the shape of that liquor cabinet?" in reference to Sugar's legs, where she stores her whiskey, which at the time I was ranking as the most sexist thing he said so far. But I was curious to see what contenders would come down the pipe. I didn't find anything more sexist than that. I think that was the most sexist thing Jerry says throughout the whole movie.
But actions speak louder than words.
Yeah. We'll get to that. Okay, so a theme is established at this point in the film where Jerry gets horny and then Joe has to bonk him over the head and send him to horny jail.
Yeah, that's true.
He has to remind them that they're trying to do this so that they won't draw attention, right? And using your female persona to try to hook up with the fucking bandmates that you're traveling with is probably not the best idea when you're trying to lay low. Getting laid and laying low are mutually exclusive.
This is definitely one of those like cringy moments of like playing into the stereotype of like, oh, be weary of the trans people in bathrooms because really they're trying to get your like women or whatever, and that is not cute.
Yeah,
because one of the first, because how they really like meet Sugar is in a bathroom, you know, and that was part of like my marquee. It was meant like as a joke because like this is J.K. Rowling's like nightmare that she makes up every night when she goes to bed. Like
Jack Lemmon busted into her bathroom and drag
I guess, yeah,
with a chainsaw.
which, you know, I guess it depends on how you interpret the film. Like obviously it's that there's the one half where you have Jerry's character who, you know, has this sort of gender question mark and is exploring that. And then so them going into the bathroom is very different contextually than Joe, where this is all a ruse, right? So it creates like a problematic and interesting paradigm, especially looking at this retrospectively in our time, examining these scenes with our eyes in our context.
Yeah. Which is more than would be said for most comedies from like the 90s, which are just like, oh, this is awful.
Yeah, that's true.
The jokes are bad and everything's horrible.
Be like, why is everyone racist?
Yeah. So after the bathroom scene, they go and they practice all together as a band for the first time on the train. Sugar gets her own dance solo where she shakes a lot. Climaxing when her flask falls out of her dress and onto the floor.
Also, Bad Ben.
Bad Ben.
First one, Bad Ben. Second off, really funny to have her play ukulele in like a big jazz band. That was like one of the things that stood out to me is you're playing this instrument that is so like like a very quiet instrument. It's so small. It's the smallest of the guitar style instruments, and then you've got Joe over there blowing on his saxophone. Like you're gonna hear anything she's doing on that ukulele. I just thought it was really funny.
Yeah.
And her pipes. Oh my gosh, she can sing.
Yes, that's facts. My God. So her flask falls out on the floor, and she had mentioned before that the manager, if she found out that Sugar was drinking, would kick her out of the troupe. The manager almost kicks out Sugar before Jerry takes the fall for it, asking for his flask back.
This moment is also super cute because I think this is another one of those things where we see Daphne, like, Daphne's helping Marilyn out. She's like being a real girl's girl, and she's coming in clutch. And it's just like this sweet moment where Daphne gets to understand like sisterhood, or like gets to, make friends, and like the start of her friendship with Sugar.
It's sweet. Sweet like sugar. Aww. Sweet Sue, speaking of sweet, the conductor's name is Sweet Sue, says that there's two things that she will not tolerate on this train, and that is alcohol and men.
Mm-hmm.
So they go to bed. They go to bed with Jerry, Daphne telling himself over and over again that he's a girl. He's a girl. Because if he doesn't remind himself, the horniness will take over and his eyes will pop out of his head like two beanstalks while he goes, awooga.
Yes.
While they're both sleeping, Jerry and Joe on their own separate bunks, Sugar sneaks into his cabinet bunk and thanks him for taking the fall. Then crawls into his bed to hide from Sweet Sue, who's patrolling. Then cuddles up with him. Then tells him he's hot, so tells him he's like warm, like fever-ish, and then feels his feet and says that he's cold. His feet are cold. So she starts warming him up by vigorously rubbing his feet. Dude, the people in the 1950s were so fucking weird. I'm not knocking, foot fetishists. That's fine. I'm just saying, like, what's the official stance on foot fetishes of this podcast?
You do you.
Yeah. If you like
long as it's
dogs,
consensual.
yeah, like if dogs
Hell
are your
yeah.
thing, Like, I mean, like feet dogs,
Oh,
not.
I was like, that's a different thing, dude.
Cut. Save me. Save
I
me.
understand what you said now. At first, I was like, what?
Kill me. Okay. I would also like to comment that this is like the biggest sleeper car. Like their beds are huge. Like they like just right during that scene, I was like, wow, they fit 2 people in that like pretty comfortably. And then they decide to start the whole band decides to hang out in one bunk momentarily.
That's the most unbelievable part of this movie is we don't have fucking rail infrastructure like that in the United States. Maybe we did back in the 20s, but not
It was
anymore.
at least up to snuff
anymore.
with the rest of the world in the 1920s, before aviation really was common.
So Jerry's horny levels are at 9,000. He's freaking out. Yeah, right. I just realized this is like an American Pie scene. This is like fucking American Pie of the
Yeah.
1950s.
It is.
They crack open a bottle of bourbon together to set the mood, but from Daphne's perspective.
Which I love this scene because Sugar. Okay, Daphne's trying to get the bottle from Geraldine, or from Josephine, and gets it from his bottom bunk. And as she's like pulling it out, she falls over and tumbles and falls into the hallway. And Sugar goes, "Are you all right? How's the bottle?" I love that. Priorities.
The bottle's not replaceable. They get the bourbon, they get some cups, they pour themselves some shots of spirits, and then another girl, Dolores, who I love Dolores, she's fantastic, shows up and asks if she can join. She's like, "Are y'all having a party?" Sugar says yes, but tells her to bring vermouth so that they can make Manhattans. This shit's hilarious. It's fantastic. She complies, bringing vermouth and also basically the entire fucking band for a party in Daphne's bunk, complete with crackers and cheese. Jerry is straight up not down with this. He's like,
Yeah.
"Y'all need to leave except Sugar."
Yeah, he got cock-blocked by an entire brass band. My favorite detail of the bunk party is that they one of them asks for a shaker and grabs like a warm water bottle, like the things you put on your tummy when you have like menstrual cramps and stuff. Really funny as a
Oh, is that what
shaker.
that is?
Yeah.
Yeah. You
I
gotta do
was
what you gotta
wondering
do
what that
during
was.
hard times.
Sugar untangles herself from the rat's nest of girls, grabs Joe, and drags him to the bathroom to break up an ice block so that they can make their Manhattans cold. She just puts the fucking block of ice in the sink. It's
Disgusting.
I love it.
I was like, "Ew, I don't want that in my fucking drink. That's gross."
That's something I would do.
Also, this would be loud as shit. Like everyone should be waking up at this point.
But remember, we're suspending our disbelief.
I know. It's just a good goofy time.
While they're there, she tells him that she's always had a thing for saxophone players. And all they have to do is play 8 bars of Come to Me, My Melancholy Baby, and her spine will curdle.
Gross.
If you'll remember, Joe is an alto sax player. She also admits in this moment that she's into dudes with glasses and rich dudes. What else does she like?
Yachts. Is that later? Does she talk about yachts? Well, she said, yeah, like part of her ideal man is like rich, tall. Was there something about eyes? Or am I just thinking of that?
Glasses.
Glasses.
It was the glasses, which I think is also interesting because it shows, these male characters, or that they come into this movie as male, and like get to see the world from a woman's perspective to some degree, and that she was saying that I like men who have glasses because they seem to be less like. They seem to be more. I forget the way that she says it, but they seem to be more chill, more kind.
They're gentle and harmless.
Which is funny because the whole meta is like, yeah, be the alpha bro, be the hard hitter, and it's like,
meta.
what do women want? Someone that's gonna be like respectable, kind, like a good person.
A fun moment. Sugar mentions that she's going to be 25 soon. She was 32 when she acted in this role, and earlier, Joe and Jerry tell Nellie's boss that they can pass for 25, if you remember that. Cool little meta thing there. You know? As they arrive in Florida, the two men begin subtly vying for Sugar's attention. One rich Florida man takes an interest in Daphne. Now, just to be clear, this is a 1920s Florida man. They did not have access to anywhere near the amount of methamphetamine that the modern Florida men that you know and love today have access to. They're just as bad, though. You should approach them with the same amount of caution.
Especially the ones with yachts.
Yeah. So this Florida dude, his name's Osgood. He starts vying for Daphne's attention. He takes an interest in her. And in this moment, both our main characters are introduced to sexual objectification, as both are accosted by local Floridians. Fucking Josephine is accosted. It's rough. The bellhop is like way too forward.
Yeah, dude, the bellhop.
Like, you don't need to let me in. I got my own key.
Oh my god, yeah, that dude.
Oh, Jesus.
That was one of the
Daphne,
moments that was like played for laughs, and I was like, ew, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 50s were awful. But Daphne's followed into the elevator by Osgood, and it's implied that he like gropes her.
Pains her ass, yeah.
Just like, and I mean, this is the 50s, right? Everybody's like, oh, boys will be boys. So it's played like that, but watching it back, it's like, God fucking damn, bro. That's insane.
I think because that is like the norm in those days, like showing it on TV, like from a male getting objectified and being harassed in that way, and then them realizing, wait a minute, maybe this is not okay. Whoa. I thought that was good.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sugar comes to their room once they get there and invites them out for a swim. Joe is not horny, so he says no, but Jerry is horny, so he says yes. Plot twist, Joe actually is horny. So he dresses in the fucking outfit that Sugar described earlier that she's into, so that he can seduce her with a new identity.
I don't think that Daphne is being horny here. The entire swim scene, they're just like playing in the ocean and they're playing pass with the ball, and like I think this is Daphne being like, I'm enjoying hanging out with the girls. Like how freeing and liberating this is.
Hell
like,
yes.
Yeah, but that's my take.
I think you're right, and I think that it comes up later. But in this scene, he's like, Joe says to Daphne, yo, you better put some sunscreen on. And he says, I will, and then I'll put some on Sugar, you know, and he's like, sure. But I think when they get to the beach, he's like, oh shit, this is this is great. Gal pals.
Grand old time.
Anyway, Joe puts on this outfit, sailor hat, glasses, brings a book because Sugar said that she likes guys that read, and gets to the beach. And he ends up running into Sugar and uses a British accent that is just awful. The worst fucking British accent I've personally ever heard in my entire life, Tony Curtis.
It was horrible. Because it was transatlantic and British, and it was just like, oof.
It's like a fucking amalgamation of a dude from Boston and like a dude from Yorkshire. They say the title in this scene
Because they talk about jazz and how it's hot, and Tony Curtis says, yes, some like it hot.
Which, by the way, liking classical music more than jazz, racist.
That's a bad take, though. Kind of.
No, that's true. I agree with Luke.
You can like both. Doesn't make you racist.
I know, it's a meme. But also, like, jazz is superior.
Jerry runs up to get Sugar and recognizes Joe, the rat bastard, but they don't blow each other's cover. In this scene, Jerry tells Sugar that they should race back to the room where Josephine is so they can tell her all about the man that Sugar just met and is infatuated with. But really, Jerry just wants to blow his cover. It is a masterclass in script writing. It's one of the best scenes in the movie. It's fucking brilliant. What happens is they get to the room and Josephine isn't there. And you're like, oh, of course she isn't there because she couldn't have made it in time. So Sugar's like, I'm just going to leave and I'll come and hang out with you guys later. And Daphne says, no, you are going to, we should just hang out, you know? I'm sure she'll be here in a second. And then they hear her singing from the bathroom. So they open the door and there Josephine is taking a bath, covered in suds. And she's like, hey, girls, how's your day? And Sugar's like, oh, I have the most lovely story to tell you about the... I can't do Marilyn Monroe.
It's hard.
Yeah. Only Marilyn can do Marilyn Monroe. Rip. But she goes, I met this beautiful man. And it starts describing him. And Josephine is so supportive and happy for her girlfriend. And then she leaves. Jerry chastises Joe for what he's done. And Joe emerges from the suds wearing the clothes that he wore on the beach. It's fucking brilliant. It's so funny. It's an excellent reveal. Great script writing. Fucking goddamn, I love Billy Wilder.
Also, in this scene, Daphne is like, what are you doing to that poor girl? And I'm like, I think Daphne's starting to realize, you know, how shitty they're treating Sugar.
And that Joe is a sleaze bag.
Yeah. And it's like they come close to this realization, but then in other scenes it like Daphne or Jerry's character will do something to contradict that. But that's, again, one of my biggest gripes with the movie.
The Florida man who groped Jerry in the elevator calls and arranges a date. When Joe hears he has a yacht, he hatches a plan. Jerry will go on a date with this crusty old piece of shit, freeing up the yacht for him to take Sugar on a date. So they go out to the yacht for this date, and then Joe, pretending to be this, you know, pompous fucking British dude, tells Sugar that he can't feel love. He can't feel love. He's just felt cold his whole life, as a way to get her to try everything in her power to make him feel those things. And she's very eager to please.
It's bad.
It's bad.
Yeah, it's not great.
Also, he says a bunch of shit that he like doesn't know. He's like, "Oh yes, I play water polo," and she's like, "Oh, I hear water polo is dangerous." And he's like, "Yes, I've had 2 ponies drown beneath me." It's like, come on, Sugar, recognize that.
It's fucked up. On the other hand, we do like whip pan transitions between the night that Joe's having with Sugar and Jerry's having with Osgood, the Florida man. They're dancing and having a good time. They're dancing salsa, I think.
They're dancing tango.
Oh.
Get back.
Racco.
And Daphne is loving it. She is fully into it.
Oh, yeah.
Although sometimes she
absolutely.
forgets and starts leading.
She's enjoying the fuck out of it. Even when Joe gets home from his date and finds Daphne on the bed, still shaking the maracas and enjoying her night, he asks what's going on, and Daphne says that he's gotten engaged to Osgood. Joe tells him it's a stupid idea and then makes him repeat the inverse of the chant that he had him repeat on the train, which is, I'm a boy, I'm a boy. Jerry lies down and says, I'm a boy, boy do I want to die, I'm a boy.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I think this is a vital moment for any reading of this movie that involves Jerry or Daphne's gender identity. The next day.
Well, I think, yeah, because it's also like for one, like that one night, he felt like the belle of the ball, you know, the apple of someone's eye, to feel
And like
beautiful and wanted and all these things.
By the worst dude. Osgood's horrible.
yes. Yeah.
He's
Osgood
so
is
pushy, assaulted her in an elevator, like, ugh. But, like Lucas was saying, Daphne said that they're going to get engaged, and has this whole plan that he's going to like milk alimony checks from him.
Get that bag.
Which is, interesting. Probably sexist.
Yeah.
But hey, man, we're down this hole. We're like way too far down this hole to get back out of it. The next day, Spats arrives at their hotel, revealed by his trademark spats. This shit's so funny. I want like a whole mob movie made by Billy Wilder. I'm sure it exists. I just haven't seen it yet. Anyway, he brings his gang of mugs. Spats and his mugs enter the elevator with Jerry and Joe.
But wait, can we so before they go in, because they're there for some kind of like mob meetup of like the families or something, and they have to get their weapons checked in. And I love that his one like goon has his gun tucked up one leg and the bullets tucked in the other leg, which is like really fun. He's like, "Hey, loaded," and then he like unfurls his pant and all these bullets come out. And I love the idea of him like getting in a gunfight and be like, "Oh shit!" and this is like all his bullets fall out, and he's like trying to load this revolver.
It's good comedy.
That sure made me laugh out loud. So yeah, they they enter the elevator. They enter the elevator with Jerry and Joe and accost them. They don't recognize them, but they show interest in them and say that they'll be up to their room later, to hit on them. Which is fucking weird that was just normal back in the day. Jesus. Anyway, the characters go back to their room as fast as they can and start packing up all their clothes to get ready to run away again. As they do this, we actually get kind of a tender moment because they stumble across knickknacks that they've collected after assuming their alternate identities. And it clearly has an effect on them, which I think is cool. It's a theatrical moment. Most of the information in the scene is carried through the actors' performances. Joe calls Sugar and while they're packing up, he calls Sugar because he wants to say one last goodbye to her. Assumes his shitty fucking British accent and tells her that he has to sail away to South America for some reason.
That's the scene where Marilyn Monroe shows her range and like her capability of showing sadness, and I don't know, that was the scene that I was like, damn, I wish I could see her in everything, do everything.
Joe and Jerry, they climb down out the window right in front of the room that Spats and his mugs are staying in. They try and grab them, but can only grab their instruments. When they open the case, they find the bullet holes in the bull fiddle that they shot earlier. At the beginning of the movie, when they ran away in the garage the first time, they put a couple bullet holes in the bull fiddle. So now they know who they are and chase after them. They're chased under the table for the event that it's like some fucking mob boss expo.
Yeah.
They get chased under the table there. Spatz shows up with his goons, and since it's ready to start, they sit down at the table to commence the ordeal party, I guess. So in the back room, there's a giant cake that says "Happy Birthday, Spats" on it. And when the main characters run past it on their way to hide, and you think, oh, it's a cake. They made a cake for Spats for his birthday. But then it cuts back to it, and you see that the cake top comes off, and they're putting a guy with a gun in the center of it. And when they get to the second verse on "He's a Jolly Good Fellow," dude's going to pop out with a machine gun, and it's "Goodbye, Spats." Goodbye, Spats Columbo. So yeah, they wheel the cake out. The scene's hilarious because the fucking MC of the organization tries to make it look like he's, giving good words to Spats and ends up just like roasting him.
Yeah. It's like all backhanded things. Some people would say it was irresponsible, but me, I'm a kind man. Like,
damn, that's good, Mitch. You should take that on the road.
I watched a lot of mob movies, I guess.
Oh, that should be an epoch.
Oh, good point.
So the dude pops out of the cake, lights them all up, and kills them. Joe and Jerry hop up, run away. They get chased because they're witnesses again. They make it back to their room and change back into their female personas. While they're in the lobby, they hear over the radio that basically every exit to the city is being watched by the goons that killed Spats. So they decide Jerry will call Florida man Osgood and get him to take them on his yacht away from all of this mess. While Jerry makes the call, Joe hears Sugar singing "I'm Through with Love" in the next room. He wanders in and watches her. When she finishes, he walks up to her and kisses her on the lips and then says, "None of that, Sugar. No guy's worth it." Which is like this movie's Casablanca moment.
For sure.
And then he's chased away. And fucking Marilyn Monroe's reaction's so good. Josephine.
I will say Tony Curtis can fucking run in heels. Holy, like he legs it. There's a number of scenes in this movie where he like climbs stairs three at a time if in full heels. He got good in the heels. Hauls ass.
You can watch him progress throughout the movie, from like twisting his ankle at the beginning to fucking doing parkour. They make it to Florida Man's boat on the pier, but before they can leave, Sugar runs and joins them. Joe says, "You don't want me. You don't want me, because I'm a lying piece of shit. I'm bad news for you. I'm bad. You don't want me." Bad
what
news.
the fuck is that?
Bad news bears.
I thought that was so good.
No,
Yo.
it's terrible, bro.
I'm going to give that like a 9 out of 10.
No.
Unbelievable. Okay, all right. Sugar does the whole, "Nah, I love lying piece of shits" thing.
I know. Yeah, it's like, okay, I get it if there was some like true, honest connection. It's like you were running from the mob, whatever. He did nothing but lie to her to get into her pants. Like, that ending frustrated the shit out of me.
Yeah. I'm there with you for the most part.
But
I think you
there's
have to
another part of the
interpret
ending.
that one. Right. So after this exchange, they kiss underneath the moonlight on the ocean. It's so cinematic. Oh, it's lovely. But then the movie ends up front on the boat with Daphne explaining all the reasons to Osgood why they can't get married. He says he's not a natural blonde, he can't have kids, etc., etc. And to every point that Daphne makes for why they can't get married, Osgood has a counter argument, right? Finally, Daphne admits, "Okay, look, I'm a man." And Osgood says, "Nobody's perfect." And then the credits roll.
And it's like, it could be so good, but there's this look on Daphne where it's like, oh no, what I get myself into sort of thing. It hints at it. I don't know. It's the ending for me of this movie was a little frustrating, but it was the 1950s.
Yeah.
What you gonna do?
Well, what you gonna do?
So that essay from earlier from Quintessence of Dust called "A Trans Perspective on Some Like It Hot." I just want to finish with a quote that they wrote. They said, "On the other hand, Daphne emerges as a character in her own right, even going so far as to accept the Osgood's proposal and not really considering the implications. It's as if once Jerry allowed himself the freedom to be Daphne, he discovered that she was the person he was meant to be. I know I'm reading a lot into this, but Daphne does not read as a disguise Jerry's wearing. In many ways, Lemon creates Daphne as a separate character from Jerry, a character who is reluctant to admit to having lived as Jerry. Watch the ending where Daphne has to come out to Osgood. If we watch this with Daphne being transgender, it feels very much like a scene where a trans woman has to come out to her boyfriend, or is trying to break up before the boyfriend discovers her trans identity, albeit played for laughs. Osgood is the lovely gentleman who couldn't care less, and the ending almost implies that they will go out and get married anyway, and probably divorced, as Osgood's marriages don't last all that long anyway. It's actually rather bold, and there's little wonder why heads were exploding in Kansas at the thought of Hollywood's latest perversion."
Honestly, yeah, I completely agree with that take. This movie got good bones.
That's a good way to put it. It does have good bones. It's a good foundation for better ideas. Some like it hot. I'm one of those people. I like it hot.
Same.
You like jazz?
What did y'all think of it? What did you all think? Was this your guys' first time? All of us, our first time watching this movie.
Yeah.
What did y'all
Yeah.
think?
My closing thoughts, I guess. Yeah, I think the mob stuff maybe like got a little bit, it was funny, like a very like a funny part of the film, but maybe ate up a little too much screen time and didn't give the gals enough time for the characters to develop outside of the laughs and situations they're put into that are comical. I think I'd maybe just want a little more heart outside the gags. So those would be my requests for the film. But overall, I had a good time. It was funny.
If that's the case, I can highly recommend to you The Apartment. It's like this, but with a lot of heart.
Yeah, I think that it was funny. It was captivating. It was something that I was like, excited to be watching. I thought it did a lot for the time that it came out. I definitely think that there were moments that we talked about where it went back and forth that frustrated the hell out of me. Like, especially that scene with Daphne being so excited that she got proposed to. I loved that scene. And then it to just be kind of slammed by, oh yeah, I'm doing this all so that I can get, hit the alimony, which, like, get your bag, like, you do you, girl. But I feel like it kind of was going against this narrative of, like, Daphne coming into her own and, like, feeling the most free she has felt in possibly her life. But, like, yeah, for 1959, oh my God, like, they did a lot. And Marilyn is just a star. It was cool. Yeah.
Hell yeah. I'm a huge Billy Wilder fan. I'll probably put it a similar way to how Mitch put it, though. I think this movie does lack heart. I think that's a very good way to put it. Because the characters' motivations are also superficial, but they're resolved in a way that isn't superficial. The progression from one to the other isn't believable. It's kind of just immediate. As if, like, there was some connection between Sugar and Josephine that I didn't pick up on earlier on in the movie. It just felt like they were both using each other for their own superficial benefits and kind of just ended up together at the end. I think this movie would probably benefit a lot from multiple viewings, especially just to kind of get your mind into the context of the time. Because I will say it is very progressive for a movie from the 1950s, absolutely, but it's still a movie from the 1950s, and there's a lot to unpack. But again, it's a Billy Wilder movie. I fucking love Billy Wilder. I don't think it's his best movie. It's probably my least favorite out of the ones that I've seen. I'd highly recommend to start with something else. Start with either Sunset Boulevard or The Apartment. But all the classic calling cards of a good Billy Wilder movie are still there. The script is immaculate. It's all served by the direction. Fun stuff, fun to analyze. Holds up so well and very funny. I thought it was fantastic. All right, ratings out of 10.
Just kind of a solid, good enough movie for me. So it's going to be a 6 out of 10 for me.
For me, I would say because of the historical context, learning about Barbette, for its time, it is a 6 out of 10 for me. I think outside of that historical context, it would have been rated lower, maybe a 4. I do think, though, with these notes that we had, it could be higher than a 6.
Yeah, I think the script is just too fucking good to rate it anything lower than a 7. Now we're going to move on to a segment we like to do on this podcast where we scour the internet like we're sailing the high seas on a yacht. Like we're I'm trying to do like a fucking meme where like I introduce the segment with a theme from the movie. Doesn't really work. There's a segment we do on this podcast where we where we look around the internet for the most unhinged, off the wall, bonkers fucking review we can find of the movie. Collect them and then share them with each other.
This comes from Letterboxd user Krabby Goblin, who gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Very interesting film. Would never watch it again, but I'm so happy I was born with more than just this crap to watch.
Damn.
Huh. Okay.
This is the best I got. Thank you, Krabby Goblin.
No, don't think Krabby Goblin. Bad take. Bad Krabby Goblin.
Bad Krabby Goblin. My hot take comes from a user off of Letterboxd named Abigail. A better gangster movie than The Departed.
Fuck you. Fuck you, Abigail. You're wrong.
Fucking love The Departed, guy. You shut the fuck up.
The Departed's one of the best movies ever. Yeah, you shared that opinion with the wrong two guys.
We fucking love Matt Damon around here, motherfucker. It's fine that you have that opinion, though. It's okay.
Yeah, maybe get a new one.
Damn. R.I.P. Abigail.
Yeah, R.I.P. Abigail. Come on the podcast. You won't. So, my unhinged review is from Reverend Thomas Little. I actually... there was a letter written to the producer of this movie by a reverend from the League of Decency that I was going to share earlier on in the episode, but Mitch had the idea that I should save it for an unhinged review, which was a brilliant idea. If we didn't edit that part out, then you already know all this. So yeah, I'm going to read the letter that he wrote to the creators of the movie, the producer of this movie, with his concerns about Some Like It Hot. The producer's name is Jeff. March 5th, 1959. Dear Jeff, for your information, and I am sure, interested reaction, the Legion, that's the Legion of Decency, on March 12th, rated the United Artists film Some Like It Hot, starring Marilyn Monroe, as B, morally objectionable in part for all, with the following objection noted. This film, though it purports to be a comedy, contains screen material elements that are judged to be seriously offensive to Christian and traditional standards of morality and decency. Furthermore, its treatment dwells almost without relief on gross suggestiveness in costuming, dialogue, and situations. Since the initiation of the AAA method of classifying films in December 1957, this film has given the Legion the greatest cause for concern in its evaluation of Code Seal pictures. As you can well imagine, it bordered on condemnation. The subject matter of transvestitism naturally leads to complications. In this film, there seemed to be clear inferences of homosexuality and lesbianism. The dialogue was not only double entendres, but outright smut. The offense in costuming was obvious. In the present atmosphere of our society, which seems to be calling for censorship and controls, this picture will only add fuel to the fire. I thought that you would be sincerely interested in our observations. Perhaps they might act as a stopgap in future decisions with which you are faced. With best personal wishes to yourself and staff, I remain cordially yours, Reverend Thomas Little.
Boo.
Reverend Thomas Little, boo. God's not real.
Crazy how something so small can make these people flip out.
I know, right?
On the plus note, he's probably dead.
Oh, most certainly, yeah. Almost certainly. But on a negative note, he probably had kids.
And we all know.
And instilled, yeah.
They're probably all stupid, too. They're probably all stupid fucking kids.
If you're the son of the Reverend, please reach out to the pod.
I would love if that happened. Honestly.
Yeah, no, actually, my dad was a piece of shit. You're right. Anyway, thank you all for listening to another episode of Blockbuster. Next week will be Lucas's suggestion, which is called La Chimera. La Chimera. La Chimera. La Chimera. La Chimera. La
La
Chimera.
Chimera. Or
La
Chimera.
Chimera. La Chimera.
I don't know anything about this film. I'm very excited to go in completely blind to it. I'm not going to look up anything about it. I'm just going to soak it in.
Yeah.
Like a Mormon.
This movie was something that just came across somebody's like recommendation list, and I watched the trailer for it, and I was like, I'm curious about it. But honestly, it's been a while since I watched the trailer on it. I don't know what I'm getting into either, but heard it was good. So let's see.
Excellent. Cheerio, listeners. See you next
Yes.
week.
Have a good night, y'all.
Spy.